Hey guys, welcome back to another video. On the table today we have the Cold Steel AD10 Lite with the Tanto blade. This is my most anticipated folding knife of 2022. I've been passionate about Tanto blades, and I've also been interested in the AD10 itself. And so when Cold Steel decided to put the two together, this kind of became a match made in heaven, and I was really excited to give this one a try. So what the light version means is that Cold Steel has used their AS10A steel on the light version and their grivory or GFN handle instead of the premium version, which has an S35 VM blade steel and a G10 handle. So let's quickly talk about what light means to me and potentially to you. Normally you would think that the light version is going to be lighter in weight than the standard version, and therefore with a slightly lesser price tag you're getting something a little bit more easier in the pocket, which is not really the case as far as I understand it, and especially with this particular model. So the regular AD10, whether it's the Tanto or the drop point version, the weight is, so there's really no difference in weight. What light means to me is the change in materials they use to construct the knife. So obviously instead of S35N, we have the AS10A and the grivory handle versus the other more premium materials for the more expensive version. So to me, that's what that means. So AS10A, we're looking at a Rockwell hardness between 58 and 60. This is a stainless steel blade, and AS10 is supposed to mix toughness with stainless. I've had very light use with this, so I mean, so far it's done well for me, but that's kind of the idea behind the AS10. And it's supposed to be, I haven't had to sharpen it yet, but it's supposed to be reasonable to keep a sharp edge on there. So the overall specs on this, we're looking at a blade length of 3.5 inches, cutting edge of 3.5 inches, blade height 1.36, and a blade stock thickness of 3.8 millimeters. Moving over to the handle, we have a handle length of 5 5/16 of an inch. We have a handle width of 0.65 inches, so nice and wide, and handle height in the middle here of 1.2 inches, overall length of 8 3/4. All right, let's talk about the blade on this one. Obviously, AD10 Lite with the Tanto is an Americanized Tanto with the pronounced secondary edge there. The blade itself is a hollow grind along the main cutting edge portion, and then a flat grind on the chisel portion, and overall of course a saber grind with the mid height of the cutting edge and then the flat continuing on from there. I'm very happy with the construction and the fit and finish on this, and same thing goes for the blade, particularly the secondary cutting bevel, both sides is very nice and even. The overall machining of the blade from the plunge grind down to the tip along the spine, everything is nice and square and even and true. So Cold Steel has done a really good job with how they have machined and finished the blade on this. It's very well done, super clean. The spine on the back is somewhat chamfered, so I don't think you're going to really be able to throw sparks off of that. And you can see there that there is a pyramid shaped thumb studs, very comfortable. And you can see there's a lot of room for access, either left or right hand carry. Easy to throw that blade out. I'm just going to get rid of my fingerprints here. Another thing you can notice on the blade is that there is a small forward finger choil, and by small I mean, I can get the tip of my finger back there depending on how you want to hold the knife, but if I go with more of the meat of my finger, it definitely rides up onto that edge. So not necessarily usable for full finger twirl, but is comfortable for the tip of your finger there. Also, a little bit of jimping along the spine you can see there and up onto the handle. It's fairly well rounded and soft, so it doesn't really bite into your thumb or into your finger at all, unless you're really going to bear down, and then the fat of your finger, meat of your finger, is going to sink into there, give you a little bit more traction if you're going to be using your typical saber grip there. And the pivot, we're talking about bronze washers in there, which I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to show you here just based on how my lighting is, but it goes along with the hard use nature of the AD10 in general. And we got to talk about the action on this guy, because this is probably the most hydraulic, smooth, and closest to bearings cold steel with washers I've ever handled as well. It is incredibly smooth. Pretty much drop shut once you release that triad lock, and when you roll it out, it is buttery smooth. It feels amazing to actuate, opening and closing. It is impressive actually. And lockup, it is solid, left to right, up and down, absolutely bulletproof as far as how strong it is when she locks up. And yeah, just very impressive with how smooth this thing is to open and close. Now this is one of those cold steels where you don't have much tang of the blade to catch your finger. This is a biter. So as soon as you bring that down, you can see that the cutting edge rolls around, and there's really next to nothing for space for your finger in there. So you got to be really careful when you're closing it. Mostly two-handed closing action. I have found though that if you take the tip of your finger and you put it exactly right there, as you've seen me do a couple times already, you do catch just barely the tang of the blade. You can see it right in there. You got to get it precisely. Otherwise, you are going to bite yourself a little bit, which I have done. Haven't bled yet, thankfully. And then you can roll it around and snap it shut, or you can drop her and of course finish the closing with your hand there. So overall though, and just incredibly smooth. Opening and closing is just, it's almost fidgety, which I think is pretty rare for BV cold steel like that. Ergonomics on this knife are amazing. I believe the AD10 has been known for a long time to be an incredibly comfortable and user-friendly handle and ergonomics. That is most definitely the case. Let's talk about the grivory material for a second here. By look, well, I'll get to the looks in a second. By feel, it feels just as comfortable and smooth in hand as any G10 I've ever handled. I have handled some of Cold Steel's grivory handles before on other knives, and this just seems to me to be a step up in feel and quality. Now, one thing that they did, as you can see here, is they added these lines. There's really no texture to them. You can't really feel them. They don't really grab, pardon me, the skin of your hand. It's more for looks, and I think that it detracts from the looks of the handle. To me, that looks like cheap grivory texturing, even though the quality feels really good. So I think that it actually cheapens the look of it a bit. I wish they just would have kept it smooth instead of adding those texturing lines. I mean, really, that's a nitpick, but that's something that I noticed. Of course, this is the triad lock. That's, well obvious by now, but it is incredibly strong and secure. We have, to my understanding, there's been some debate in the knife groups online about whether or not the back spacer and lanyard space. If this is a, you know, grivory or G10, based on my observation, to me it looks like it's G10. So that's my guess. I don't know for sure. Of course, you got your lanyard hold there, a bit of a striking point possibly, although I don't really think personally that'll handle a lot of striking. We have Cold Steel's wide pocket clip. Ergonomically, you can't even tell that the pocket clip is there. The way that it lays up against the scale and how wide and flat it is, it's so comfortable in hand. So this is one of those Cold Steels where they send you a second pocket clip so that if you want to carry it in your left pocket, it'll mount right there, no problem. Comes in the packaging. So yeah, Cold Steel AD10 fully ambi knife, which is really nice. One gripe, actually got a couple gripes on this knife overall. For one, the pocket clip is insane for spring tension. Like me pulling it back like this, if I pull it out any further, I'd rip my nail off before that spring would come out. So unless you have really thin pocket seams, I haven't been able to get this into my pockets with pants or shorts that have a thick seam. So I'm gonna have to take this clip off and bend it back probably about here, so just to relieve the tension a bit. It's too much out of the box. And another, ergonomically, it's almost perfect. All the edges are chamfered and rounded, and you can see hopefully in the camera there's a radius to the grivory handle so that it has a nice hand-filling grip. Even closed, all the edges around the front, up at this corner, along the bottom and top, and even on the back here, it's all very well rounded off and chamfered, except this point back here along the back of the handle, on the pommel end here along the top. These corners are not sharp, but they're a bit pokey. So this one, and along the back spacer along the top and up here. So if you're using your knife and you're putting pressure here, it's gonna dig in and it's gonna be uncomfortable. That's pretty minor. If you wore gloves, you wouldn't feel it, but in the bare hand, there is some discomfort here, but it just all depends on how you hold it. And most of the time I'm not over the back like that, but that's just a point of note there for you. All right, let's roll in some size comparisons here just to give you an idea. Let's compare it to the Civivi Praxis, and let's just make sure that these points are on the same point on the chart here. Relatively close there. Next one, let's do Cold Steel brother, the Recon 1 Tanto. Recon 1 coming in probably 1/4 inch longer. Next up, let's do the Benchmade Presidio 2, the full size. Pretty comparable, bang on there for same size. Lastly, let's do the Spyderco Manix 2XL, another one of my absolute favorites. And those two are nearly identical as well in overall length. It's a bit deceiving with the camera angle here, but yeah, Manix is probably 1/8 inch longer overall. So my final conclusions on the Cold Steel AD10 Lite is that it is built with precision and quality. The tolerances and the fit and finish on this are excellent. I can't really find any flaws in the construction or the finishing of this knife whatsoever. A few of my gripes, as I mentioned, I'm just going to wipe down my fingerprints there, is that the texturing or the look on the grivory, I think if they just would have kept it smooth, it would have given it a bit more of a high quality look. You may like the lines on there, which is fine, but I think I could go without them. The insane tension on the clip, it's really insane. They definitely could lighten that up. I mean, Cold Steel clips are known for that, but this is definitely, you know, up there for excessive tension. And then just the pokey edges along the back top here, which, I mean, if you plan to do a little bit of sanding, you could probably round that off yourself. But overall, this is a strong, capable knife. I love how it looks. I think the Tanto blade on the AD10 is a great pairing. I'm really happy with this. So I would recommend that if this appeals to you in any way, pick it up, and I think you'd be pretty happy. All right, guys, thanks for dropping by. Appreciate your time, and we'll catch you in the next one.